Cool. So we're going to do another marriageability class. I really want people out there in the West who are not getting married, not in relationships, to get married. Very briefly, what's happening today is that I'm going to talk about this very strange idea, which is that romantic beliefs are destroying relationships. But not only that, I'm going to talk about like I've always been telling people, just go out there and get married and find somebody. And sometimes that's not going to work out. And I'm going to give you a case study where things messed up for me. It's like, oh, that didn't work out. And why didn't it work out? And why it doesn't really bother me, you know? But although the person, and I'm purposely not going to mention this person's name, because there's no benefit in mentioning the person's name. The point is that this person, this lady, is a common example of the issues that people. She's a common example of a Westerner, and yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about. So, any thoughts or feelings about why? Would you agree? Romantic beliefs are destructive to relationships?
Yes, because romantic, over-romancing romance is just going to lead to disappointment, as you were saying to Luke Ford in earlier. You get overexcited and you're just bound to get disappointed.
Yeah. So the thing is, I don't want to make marriage sound too boring as well. It's just that, like, do you know what I mean? Like, marriage is amazing. Like, you get lots of sex, way more sex than everybody else. You have children which are annoying at first, but over time you kind of come to appreciate them as a man. I'm just saying, that's my experience. In fact, I would say the first one's annoying, but if you keep having more, they take care of each other and stuff like that. It's a lot more fun. And you create a nice warm household that you really enjoy. And people, especially in Islamic countries like here, you really enjoy just going through the streets, and you can see the touches of the housewives, like there's all these pots of different colors, and you get a feel that there
The
are
feminine
real
touch.
families in there. Sorry?
The feminine touch, the
Yeah.
homely, the homely hearth, that sort of idea.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's something wholesome there. And it's not just an ordinary feminine touch, it's the housewife's touch, which is completely different to a lady who's working non-stop and then comes home and doesn't have the energy to cook, to have sex with her husband, to do anything. That's a dead household. That's a broken household, and people hate being there. So it's the housewife's touch. So I want to go through this, let's say, case study of my mistakes that happened. But before I do, I want to try to touch on the basic idea and bring it back to an Islamic teaching from the Quran. And it goes something like this. So I'll try to make it as short as possible. There's a verse of the Quran that says something as simple as, all praise belongs to God, the sustainer of all the world. So maybe if you hear worlds, plural, sounds a bit weird, but Islam is a very futuristic religion, but we won't talk about multi-planetary life yet. But what's the value of that? So that is the opposite of romantic ideas. Romantic ideas is bigging up yourself and making yourself an idol, making other people idols. But if you worship God, and it makes sense, like if you realize, first of all, look at you contemplate the world, and you look at my background, and you go, wow, all these beautiful things that sustain us, all these beautiful things that grow out of the ground that sustain us. And if you think about that, you go, this world could not have been made by accident, therefore there must be a God. Okay, and that's the essential kind of ingredient. When you believe there's a God, and that is the target, then everything falls into place. What falls into place? Instead of idolizing yourself, which is an impossible task, like you cannot say you're perfect because that's the stupidest idea there is. I mean, that's just a dumb idea. And you will definitely suffer from mental illnesses trying to maintain that idea that you're perfect and you're married to a perfect person. Okay. So the opposite of that is having, like, literally the opposite is saying everything, all praise should be to God. Like, I think let me put it this way, it takes off all the burden of trying to be important. And then you use um, that energy to be part of that beautiful world sustained by God. I don't know if that made any sense, but I think that a couple of elements there. First of all, romanticism is about idolizing yourself, and Islam teaches, putting all the praise and everything on God, so there's no pressure on you to be perfect. And then
Yes,
when you
because
believe in God, everything's easy. Sorry, yes, go on.
Yes, it just occurred to me that romanticism is really the idolization of your emotions. So it is a form of idolatry. So you're just waiting to be overwhelmed by your emotions at the scenery, at this person, at the music, whatever, and you are, I guess, chasing rainbows when you do that. It'll lead to, well, illegal drug use and addiction and all kinds of issues. If you're just going to go for the feeling that you get when you are overwhelmed by emotion.
Yes.
And you're right in that, if you say that you're never wrong, then it's just going to happen that you will be proven wrong, and then you'll try to give an impression of never being wrong, and then censoring people who say you're wrong, and in the end you kind of fall off a cliff because you're wrong and you won't admit it, and you're going the wrong way, and you end up walking off the edge of a cliff.
Yes. So there's an interesting idea you just had about addiction. So there's only one thing that really fulfills, but because it's invisible and people in the materialistic world only value things that are visible, um, they keep chasing the visible, material, unfulfilling things. There's only one thing that fulfills, which is God. Now, that might be a big claim, but it's not hard to realize if you spend enough time in nature. That's what I'll say, right? So you spend enough time in nature, and somebody was saying, "Is that a green screen?" Yes, it's a green screen because I'm living in my work flat where I hope to have a second wife soon, or move to Syria and get a second wife, whatever. That's another story. But it's a tiny, boring flat. So this is my village home behind me, right? So the point is that I lost track. What was I saying?
You were talking about romanticism, and then the subject moved on
To my
to
background.
addiction.
Oh, yes, that's right. So there's nothing that fulfills materialistically, and then you will keep jumping from one thing to the next. So drugs will inevitably come along, porn, drugs, whatever it is, and it will never fulfill. So that is true. Romanticism will lead to disappointment because nobody is perfect, and you'll keep jumping from one thing to the other. Yeah, I do want to go through kind of like specifics of what went wrong in terms of the person I tried to marry.
You said she
So
was typically Western. Maybe you could define that.
yes, okay. So typically Western means does not have a strong belief in God. That's one element. That might sound pointless, or irrelevant, but it is the most essential ingredient for people to get married. And the reason is something like this. No person can really find any point or reason for staying married because it seems too difficult. But when you believe in God, then every difficulty is seen as a purposefully um, created task for you to do. So essentially, when you believe in God, you don't believe in accidents. So you have, let's say you're having an argument with your wife, then you realize, oh, this was set up by God. I have to overcome this. I have to win this. And if I not win the argument, but overcome this
These things are
essential,
sent to try us, and
yes, and you
these are
know that
tests
yes, it's a
that we're
test, but
supposed to
not only that.
pass.
So say again.
These are tests we're supposed to pass, and we should be grateful for these tests because it just adds to our scoring that will entitle us to go to the better place
Well,
in the
not only
afterlife.
that, because you create paradise in this life if you overcome them. So I talk about man child. What's the alternative to a man child? Like, what's the woman version? Woman child? Like undeveloped human beings. People who don't marry are underdeveloped. They don't have to stick with relationships, so they don't have to grow as much as they should. Like we're created to be pairs or whatever, be connected with the opposite sex so that we grow. It is difficult, but they're the opposite, which means they bring something different, right? So yeah, so I think
So
that's kind of,
they're stuck in arrested adolescence all their lives because
yes,
they've never been made to look after anyone apart from themselves. So they will be behaving like spoiled teenagers.
yes, yeah, because it's responsibility that makes you grow, and it's also responsibility sound boring, but it's the only way you can actually find pleasure in life. People think in the West, so this is so you asked me, what is a Westerner? Somebody who doesn't believe in God, but also somebody who's too overly focused on freedom rather than responsibility. Religious people are all about responsibility because they know that's where joy, pleasure, and everything comes from. And how do we know that even from a psychological point of view? What is responsibility? It's essentially another word for purpose. It's like, I should do this because God made me do this, whatever, whatever. And God doesn't make you do pointless, boring things. God makes you do things where you grow as a soul and you experience the world more in a more amazing way. So every day I'm enjoying life more because I've developed more. The way a really beautiful metaphor used in religious terms are um, worms versus birds. So spiritual people are like birds. So they're kind of free from the limitations of worldly life. So I'm not fixated on I need this car, I need that, whatever. Right? Do you know what I mean? Every time you grow, what you do, part of the growing process is to let go of something that was limiting you. And the way you let go of it is called sacrifice. Sacrifice sounds bad, but it's like when you let go of something you don't really need, you actually become more free from it. So you become like a bird who has a, let's say, a bird's eye view. You've got a greater perspective. And the opposite of that are people who are trapped by their worldly needs, and they're kind of like how do you describe it? Like stuck so close to the ground, so dependent on the ground, and also their view of the world is very limited, short-sighted.
Actually, I have a story to tell you since you're
Yeah.
talking about birds and worms. So this is a story that I of a box, sorry, a pizza box with a cub on top of it. So I saw it in broad daylight. There was this mangy fox cub, and it was standing on top of this pizza box trying to get at the pizza in it. And I was, willing it to take a step back so it could flip the box open and get at the pizza inside it. But it was too focused on and driven crazy by the smell, I suppose, that it just wouldn't, move away in order to actually make its access to the pizza easier. Isn't that analogous to what you were trying to say? Or I thought it was anyway.
So the fox cub was too dumb to open the pizza box. Is that what you're saying?
It was standing right on top of it, so it couldn't get into it. But if it had
Yes,
taken a step back, then it would have realised that it could just, flip it open and access the pizza that way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in that because we do make our lives much harder than we need to. So the Westerners' idea of success, for example, is to have more than other people. You might not realize that, but like, would the average person say success is, I don't know, to have an ordinary house? That's not what most people
No,
consider
it's to have
successful.
too much. Did you ever watch, that gangster mafia film? Do you remember Goodfellas? Goodfellas.
Okay.
You
I
didn't
might
watch
have
it.
watched some of it.
Oh, okay. But
Tell me
anyway,
about it.
there was this great scene. That there was this, mafioso, and he had this wife, and there was, how much money do you want? And they were using this finger thing, and how much money do you want? Is it this thick? Is it that thick? And
Mm,
then there was one was like, I just want too much. Too much would be enough for me. Only too
mm.
much would be enough for me.
Yeah, there's a movie called about the richest person ever to live at some point, all the money in the world, and he's asked how much do you need, and the answer was more. And then when he talked about his experience of the wealth, he said, wealth is like a plane or something. He said, like, you have a slight, small high, and then you start going down, 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 down. Um, so it
What
doesn't
has this
really
to do with
complete.
the typical Westerner?
Okay, cool.
They're
So
materialistic and greedy. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, but okay. So I suppose there's different parts of it. So the typical Westerner doesn't believe in God, so doesn't have a purpose, therefore cannot stick to anything of any difficulty. I'm just talking about forget marriage. Like everything seems to be incredibly difficult. So this person who I've got nothing against for her, I feel sorry for her, right? She's totally collapsed since her own mistakes. She turned up to Jordan. I suppose I should rewind and quickly tell people what happened really, like how to link it back to romanticism. So she made a video saying, all I want for Christmas is you. And I said, okay, is it me you're talking about? She said, basically said yes. Okay, so we started working on the process, and I said, listen, and here are my mistakes essentially, right? I was too loose in saying, are you a real Muslim? Or like she said, oh yeah, I believe Prophet Muhammad is a prophet and God exists and whatever. But then she would keep doing silly things like starting to believe in other gods and silly ideas and stuff like that. And also, this might sound really weird to people, but she didn't feel the need to cover her hair. Now, let me explain why is that really important. Why, essentially, I'm just trying to look at the parts. So, if the if you don't feel okay, I suppose it's going to the marriageability bit. So um, let me answer the bit about. Let me answer it in the context of uh, what she was not marriage material. Why was that? Why was she not marriage material? Is because she didn't have a strong idea of the her purpose. So it also links with the purpose of marriage, right? So the purpose of marriage is your first question on your list is essentially to become something greater in the long term. And her idea, her romantic idea was to be with me because from a distance, everybody looks perfect and whatever, right? There's something she liked, the spiritual, these classes and stuff like that. And it helped her. And a lot of women find that attractive. Like you mentioned already, and this has been, I've watched, some podcasts talk about this essentially, is that if you're a kind or helpful person, then women are naturally attracted to you, which is not um, amazing to believe. It just means you're useful and kind people are useful, blah, blah, blah. So that's an attractive feature, right? So, anyway, for whatever reason, she was attracted to me, but um, I keep losing track of what I'm saying. Sorry about that. So, there was this romantic idea. I've totally lost track. Sorry, I've done that about a million times. Maybe I've been doing too much talking today.
Um, You were saying that she wasn't suitable because maybe her appreciation of you was shallow. So she might
Hmm.
have thought you were a kind person, but she just saw that you were useful. And maybe you were displaying a degree of competence that is over and beyond the degree of competence of the men that she normally met.
Yeah. So I actually
And
remembered,
the
yeah,
fact that you're already married might also recommend her to you. You to her, rather.
yeah, that's right. So if you don't believe in God, you don't. So having a purpose and direction is attractive. And if you don't believe in God, you won't have a purpose and direction. You're kind of all over the place. And women like to feel that you are going somewhere. You have a plan, and a plan means essentially more money, more exciting things happening in your life. If you're wavering, you're weak, and you don't have a, and you can't lead. And women really want to be led, despite what they would say, because women in real life are not like the movies. They are weak. They need help all the time, right? They know they're chaotic. They know they need to be protected, right? So um, there's that. That's totally true. But also, so I was talking about like there's these different levels. First of all, your four questions. The first question is what's the purpose of marriage? And it's kind of like this long-term journey to develop yourself, and it makes no sense if there's no God, right? It really doesn't make any sense because it seems to be too hard and difficult. And develop yourself towards what? And the answer for religious people is essentially an infinite journey towards the beauty of God, which might sound all theoretical, but it's an amazing journey. Anybody who's grown and has a sort of a God awareness, will constantly feel more and more free, more and more in touch with nature, being at one with the universe, and all that kind of amazing kind of feeling. So there's that. And so if you don't have that, you're in big trouble. Now, being marriageable, coming to your second question, she did not want to wear a headscarf. Okay, she thought, oh no, my hair is really important. um and she had also sort of idols. When I mean by idols, they're physical idols, but also the idol of I need to look a certain way to get a certain number of views on YouTube, and that was actually controlling her, and is still controlling her, and controls anybody who's kind of needs to be, needs acceptance from other people. So what to be marriageable, this is an essential element. Besides believing in God, understanding, and this sounds terrible, maybe you can help me explain this better, but this is absolutely essential. It's a chain of command. Like, my wife only really listens to me because God said so. And without that, in non-religious societies, what happens is that men and women are trying to have the same roles, and it doesn't work. Men are much better leaders because we're kind of calmer, more logical, whatever, but it doesn't mean men are better. It's just a different duty. So when she didn't have that commitment to wearing a headscarf, which is to her own benefit, because women are kind of very kind of emotional, and they need, let's say, acceptance from other people. Like right now, you're not showing your face, right? There's a reason, because you're more self-conscious, is that right, than a man. Would you agree?
Well, and also it's a desire not to be criticised for one's looks. It's like, oh, you
Sure,
look
but that's
terrible
because you're
today.
self-conscious.
How
But
old
I
are
barely
you?
comb my hair, so
Hmm.
it's just for the same reasons. I don't care what people think of me as much as you care what people. I might care a bit, but I'm just saying there is like night and day. Me and you, like, you care a million times more than I care about my appearance. Would you agree? Probably.
Yes, I suppose. Yes, women have been acculturated to
It's not
yes,
acculturated,
taking.
it's natural. It's natural. I would say it's natural. So Islamic teachings are based on nature. And you can't say it's culture, because every woman everywhere has that feeling. It's not like there's somebody going around and creating this fake culture. That's a myth. This is like what we call a circular argument of sorts. Like it's a culture that made women feel this way, and therefore, it's a fake argument based on no real proof or any premise. Do you know what I mean? Like it's acculturated. It's natural. That's how women feel, and it makes sense because women are more. I don't know.
I
You said
suppose even if we
beautiful.
didn't have a culture, men would value women of childbearing age, particularly bachelors who are looking for a wife. So naturally, I guess virgins would be more valuable than, a married woman. But
Yeah, there's actually lots of logical reasons for a virgin to be more valuable. It's not arbitrary because the more partners a woman has, the lower her oxytocin levels go, like basic connection levels. Like it makes sense. Like imagine a woman has sex with 100 people, just like a man has sex with 100 people. That woman or man no longer knows how to feel connected to anybody. Do you know what I mean? So it's not useful. So a virgin makes more sense. A virgin means a million things. Like, for example, understand the value of not having sex outside marriage. If you understand that, you're probably less likely to be adulterous. Therefore, the man can trust you more. Do you mean there's a million obvious obvious values of being a virgin? So yeah, all these things she didn't have. She also she thought having more than having sex with different people, or having sex outside marriage is not a big deal. So yeah, there's so much bad programming that was done, but I was thinking that she was making progress, and you and I know her, and I was saying to you, and you agreed at one point, but we obviously disagreed at another point, that she was making progress, but she did start going backwards at one point, and I think things went wrong. But yeah, I could go into what was going wrong, but I like to stop talking every now and then, just to
yes,
give you a chance.
my next question would be, what went wrong?
Yeah, so I could. Okay, so this sounds really weird, but I think this is very common, but in a less extreme way. So she made a huge amount of effort to escape from her parents, who and I'm going to be a little bit cheeky, but I'm purposely not mentioning who they are and whatever. But this is a very common thing. Her parents were hugely dysfunctional. Her dad was having sex with different women, so having babies with different women outside of marriage, no longer connected to um, the family, the wife, the mother. Her mother was chaotic mess as well, and so her whole household was a mess, right? So she managed to escape from that, and she wanted to escape from it, and she realized she needed to get away from it, but at one point she started saying, I want this, and she started really, really small things very close to her arriving in Jordan. And I'll try to break down all the different issues, which are very interesting. So a little level of self-important. So everybody thinks they should be self-important. I think I try not to be important at all, right? I don't make these videos to, I don't know, be praised or something. In fact, I really don't care what anybody thinks in the first place, right? So I just see these videos as of some sort of service, right? And that's not bigging up myself. It's like it's a completely selfish thing, because when you're of service to other people, you benefit. It always benefits you, right? But that's another sort of sidetrack. So I could see the really small things, and I talk about the ridiculously small things. So I said, you're coming over here. I'm going to get you some stuff. What do you want? And she started listing lots of small things, and so the attitude was a little bit wrong. And even before that, I was overlooking she, it's really hard to say, because they're really small, subtle things. But
What
I
was
was
she asking for? You thought what was petty and demanding.
Yeah, okay. So I would say, you know what drink would you like? And I say, do you like, she's a lemonade. And then she's like listing 10 different brands, including an expensive brand. And it's really small and subtle. And other things like, no, but it's really hard to pick out anything that was particularly bad, right? But I try to point out, I'll just lay it out and then we can analyze it together because it was kind of ridiculous. But I'll put it like this. She arrived, and as soon as she got out and met me, she behaved in a really weird way, as if she wasn't going to marry me and she was going to marry, what was his name? Andrew Tate, which is a completely stupid idea because everybody knows where Andrew Tate lives. She's not in Jordan, right? But how would I analyze that? It's the freaking, okay, so you have to bear in mind that as soon as she arrived in Jordan, before she even met me, she switches her phone on, and she's getting all sorts of threats and whatever from her family. So where are you? How dare you come to Jordan? Blah, 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 escaping from us because the parents have already stole her passport beforehand. So she had to buy her own passport, right? So behind their back. So like there's this freaking out. Now, if you don't have any backbone and you only have a real backbone to do anything of any worth, if you believe in God, like I see people all the time, like if I talk to most white nationalists or all the different people, it's like, oh, I'm feeling bad today, I'm not in a mood today, I'm having a panic attack, whatever. I don't have those things because I believe in God. And when you believe in God, like, to keep it really simple, everything becomes easy. But for her, because she didn't have a really firm belief in God and the purpose of marriage, and for her it was just like, one was escaping, okay, and escaping is not the best reason, and also to achieve something like, oh, be in a relationship with me or something, right? Those are not, they sound like good reasons, but they're not good enough reasons. They're not good enough reasons to do anything valuable. And then I think it kind of dawned on her that when she arrived, that she was in big trouble and she's dependent on a lot of welfare state stuff. So maybe the whole idea of, oh, if this doesn't work out financially, I'm in trouble. Like, if you know what I mean, like you're constantly idolizing or dependent on so many other things. Like, you're dependent on people's opinions, you're dependent on people's respect, you're dependent on money, you're dependent on so many things, and you just can't do anything brave. So I suppose, like, it suddenly dawned on her, like, she was literally texting me when she was going through the visa control, like, yeah, I don't mind all these people complaining, I can see loads of people complaining on my chat, whatever. Or maybe I'm overlooking something. Tell me, I mean, you've heard this kind of touch of the story. And then she started having more and more panic attacks very quickly as we were going towards a flat. So that's what happened. Do you want to give your own analysis? You can disagree with me. Maybe I was infatuated and overlooked lots of things. Be critical of me. Feel free.
Well, I remember reminding you that Muslims are only allowed to marry Muslims, and I wasn't quite sure that she had said the Shahada, and you kind of ignored that. So I thought, well, I've done my bit. I'm not going to push it. But I'm interested in well, you said something quite odd, that she thought she was going to marry Andrew Tate. I mean, maybe you'd like
That's
to
completely
elaborate.
mental, yeah. So I would say it's based on this kind of, okay, so I think she's been encouraged to, that's a really good question. So I think she's been encouraged because she said very intelligent thing. By the way, I said to her, listen, we're going to make a video call to your uncle and who you know as well. And we're going to kind of announce, we're going to do a video call. Like in Islam, you have to make it public, right? So You have to make some sort of public announcement to somebody who knows whatever that we two are getting married. And I said, listen, if you're gonna say that, we can't get married. And then she was very aware that it's a completely stupid idea. So let me try to explain what's going on in her mind, as it must be, right? Like first of all, she said that's a stupid idea. And then at the same time, she would persist with it. And this is the way I'd explain it. She's been trained by her parents who want her stuck at home so they can depend on her. I think she even gets money for claiming mental health issues, right? Despite having said a lot of intelligent things. I was in contact with her all the time. She was being very intelligent, very sensible, right? But it's kind of like a coping mechanism that she uses. As soon as she doesn't want to take responsibility, she will say something stupid, and she knows that her parents will believe it, right? And her parents don't have a direction or purpose either. So they're quite happy for her to not make progress in her life or do anything. They're quite happy for her to have boyfriends. Um, so yeah, I think it's a coping mechanism, or not even a coping mechanism, an escape mechanism to not do anything, not take responsibility for anything. To run back to the safety of her home where she never does anything. I mean, nothing, like she lives on benefits, and I think that's crippled her. So maybe in the last question is what we can deal with later on or now if you want, is that what should government do? And I'll say very quickly, government should not make people dependent on government. So those are some ideas. Keep asking questions, keep digging if you feel like. But I think essentially a coping mechanism and something that she knows was completely stupid, and she's become dependent on. She's become dependent on being crazy. Become
Plausible
dependent
deniability, like, oh, I didn't mean it. Oh, you know me. You know, I'm a bit mad. You know, which a lot of people use.
Yeah.
And that avoids people from taking responsibility. But also it must be the fear of the unknown. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
she's never
anybody
really
would consider.
traveled, she says. Yeah.
Oh, right. So how long did she stay with you before returning?
0. She came the night. She said she didn't want to stay in the flat because for obvious reasons, like there's obviously a strong tension, sexual tension. And so she went to a hotel just down the road. And then early in the morning, I don't think she even slept. She booked a flight and she had left. So, yeah. So I think that kind of says something about the state of her state of mind. And the state of mind is something like, you have to bear in mind that her parents are freaking out. She's not, okay, people should know, she's 26, she's not a baby. And her parents are constantly treating her like a baby. Yeah. So it was like, yeah, she's become dependent on behaving crazily. I think a lot. So I want to bring it back to kind of like the bigger picture. Like this is what the reason why I bring up this case study, because I think it's very common. Like I was on that Luke Ford thing, whatever, and there was a guy who's about 60, 70 years old, and he was saying like, oh, I suffer from panic attacks, whatever. This is just another version of claiming mental illnesses rather than dealing with them. Do you know what I mean? Stephen says, drop me a link. So let's go. Where's that link? I'd love to have Stephen here. Or anybody else who wants to be here. Where is
Great.
it? Where is it?
Yes, Stephen has. Well, he's going to say about this ADHD, which he's going to say is real.
No, it's not real, Stephen. We'll talk about it. Coping mechanism.
Yeah, because
There you go, Stephen. And Jay, anybody else? Sorry, I should have posted in the beginning. That was terrible. Anybody else jump in?
Well, psychology is a parasitical
Shall we have everybody
occupation
jump in at the
anyway.
same time? Is that a bad idea or what? Because
No,
everybody's been
it's
really...
great.
Yeah.
I welcome it. I'm rubbing my hands in glee. But
Cool.
basically,
Jay, go for it. How you doing?
Good evening, Claire and Khalid, and potentially good evening, Stephen.
Yeah, cool. So go for it. Oh, Stephen's jumping, but Jay, say something, and then Stephen, thank you for joining. So agree, disagree, surprised, whatever you want. Be as critical as you want.
Well, as a man who is approaching middle age, I've had my fair share of ups and downs in relationships, which I think everybody has, and I say this kindly. All we've got is your word for it, as in it's just your story. She'll have another story. So, and I say this again with respect, your interpretation of the goings on might not be the truth. And I don't mean that you're
I don't mind.
like lying. What I mean is it's like sometimes you might read something like something. There could be another reason, there could be this, it could be that. And the older I've got, the more I think like we don't really know. We think we do. We live by stories and we tell ourselves a story. You know.
Sure. So I want to give a reason why I'm bothering to give this account. So two main reasons is one, things that don't work, and two, I'm encouraging people to put themselves out there and fail a few times. It's not the end of the world. Like, okay, that one didn't work out. Find the next person. And that's kind of the traditional way of finding people. Traditional arranged marriages or no, bang, yes, finally it works, and then you stick together. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm kind of trying to talk about. Like, don't start crying. It's not the end of the world if something doesn't work out. That's what I'm saying. What do you think about that?
No, I admire your honesty, your courage, and I do think it's good way to do it where it hasn't worked out. But the thing is, Khalid, it actually has worked out. It hasn't got the picture happy storybook ending. It has worked out as it was meant to. Believe me.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. That's why I'm not upset. That's a really good point. I'm not upset because if I had a child with her and then she ran away, that would be a nightmare, right? And if you actually have, people don't realize, if you have sex with somebody, you feel more connected with them, and then they run away, that's even worse as well. So it's like, no problem. Like,
no,
like
I do hear that if once you're past that, it's a point of no return. And I've had it with in situations where the physical stuff has not gone on, and it's quite easier to walk away once the physical stuff. And this is, people say it's more for women, but like maybe not. Like, but once that stuff happens, it can
I think it
really
affects everybody, but we're telling ourselves a story that it doesn't affect everybody. But there's a reason why there's so many broken women looking for really unrealistic things and having sex with all sorts of questionable people because they're broken women, right? So I'm going to go around because I'm very pleased. We've got so many cool people. Stephen told me he would never not come to my show for a while because I know he's taking a break and he's here. So thank you, Stephen. Go for it. Say whatever you want. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Well, look, I had no idea that you were such a Lothario dude, Khalid.
I don't even know what that even means. Tell me.
Ladies man.
Sorry?
Yeah,
ladies man.
A ladies man. I'm listening to this story.
I'm actually very practical. That's all. I don't actually feel any emotion towards it. It's like yes, no. That's it. It's not. If not, I wouldn't. I'm a nerd. I'm not a ladies man. So I suppose what I'll quickly say, I don't want to interrupt you too much, is that anybody can do what I'm doing.
But just a minute. Explain this. I thought you were already married and had kids.
Yeah, I'm going for a second, third wife, whatever. Yeah.
Whoa! What the?
Oh, you don't know about that? Okay.
No. So explain.
Yeah, I'm looking for a second wife.
This is brand new. You're looking for a second wife.
Yeah, maybe a third. Who knows?
Why?
Oh, because I want more sex. So okay, but let me break it down a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because there is more, maybe a bit more to it, right? So I've got 4 kids, and the kids all had my wife had cesarean. That's basically cutting out the womb, so it weakens the womb's wall, so she can't have any more kids, which also means she has to be more careful. Like we have to use condoms and stuff like that, and I hate using condoms. So yeah, just more fun, whatever. And my wife can't handle more sex more than once a week. She finds it tiring, and I'm just getting younger. So yeah.
Wow. Well, this is an overload of information. I had no idea that you were like this, actually.
Well, Muslims are allowed to do that. Didn't you know about the 4 wives? I thought it was famous.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but and your wife's okay with this?
Yeah, she's quite pleased because I'll stop pestering her.
For real?
So I'm
Your
going
wife's
to add
okay with you
Robert.
chasing other women?
It's not chasing other women. It's very practical. So she says, as long as I do it officially, that's fine. So, okay, let me explain this. I think it's very not romantic. So I will try not to say anything particular. Oh, you look good, whatever. It's nothing to do with that. In fact, I mentioned in the other stream, there's an 18-year-old very interested in me, maybe a 17-year-old, whatever. And I'm not happy that they're too excited. Like I went to their house and it says, "I love you" in the front of the window and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's not, that kind of stuff doesn't make marriage work. Being excited, you have to have a purpose, you have to have a reason why you're getting married, and then that will work. Because I can get sex different ways if I wanted to. Okay. I don't want short-term relationships because I know it sounds like, oh, being religious, but it doesn't work. Emotionally, it doesn't work. It harms you. So yeah, but I want to keep going round. I mean, do you want to make any comment about that, Stephen? Before, I've never spoke to, how do you say, Mike?
No, talk to Mike. That's fine.
Come on, Mike, go for it.
Sure.
Go for it. Whatever you want to say.
Yeah, my last name's pronounced Malzahn, or you can say Malzahn. That's what most people say.
Cool. I'll call you Mike.
Anyways, first,
good to have you.
Why doesn't your wife get like a tubal ligation? Have her tubes tied if a pregnancy is dangerous to her, rather than using condoms.
Don't want operations. Don't believe in operations unnecessarily.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't trust operations. Don't trust doctors for everything. Yeah.
True. They give you too much anesthesia, you don't wake up. That can happen.
I don't consider doctors gods by any stretch of the imagination. I don't touch pharmaceutical medicines at all. Do you know what I mean? Definitely don't trust them. So I mean, I've seen doctors do a really bad job, left, right, and center, everywhere. Like, what's that thing when you it's a famous thing where you've got a really sharp pain.
Appendicitis.
Sorry?
Appendicitis.
Appendix. My wife had that, right? I thought that's a really basic thing. And it popped because all the top doctors in London couldn't figure it out. So they're really dumb. They're like, we don't give them too much credit. I don't give them too much credit. So
it's bad if they don't cut it out before it explodes. That's
exactly.
Really
so there's plenty of crap doctors. I don't trust them. But anyway, give me a more difficult question than that. Or any comment you want to make. Disagree with me. You can be anti-Islamophobic if you feel like, whatever.
Okay. Well, you were saying those of us who have never married, and I'm in the West. I'm in Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm 55. I've never married, so apparently I'm underdeveloped and I have no purpose in life.
Yeah. So so let me explain that. And it's not insulting. It's like for your own sake.
Seems a little insulting, but it's all right.
Yeah, sure. I would say that. Okay, here's the logic. If there's no God, then that means the universe is random. There's no purpose, right? Essentially, right?
Correct.
You cannot therefore create in your mind a purpose because you've already said there's no purpose, right? That's a contradiction. And you can't hold that contradiction in your head. It sounds like, because we're told again and again, oh, you can make a purpose, but all purposes have no meaning, no sense in them if the world is random, because everything you do will be obliterated, be wasted, and all that kind of stuff, right? So essentially, and I don't think we can get away with it. Even those people pretend to have a purpose, they know deep down it makes no sense. It feels all meaningless, and I think you said truth, so I appreciate that, right? So when you have no purpose, it makes it really hard to do anything, right? It makes it really hard. That's what I've noticed.
I said true to randomness. I'm not saying it's true that you have no purpose. The purpose is life itself, right? That I believe once you die, right? So there's no eternal soul.
No,
So
do you have a particular purpose? Do you, in your, like, have you decided a purpose for yourself?
like written on the board or something? Like I want to achieve
No, I think it's really,
no.
it's really, okay, let's not call it purpose, let's call it a goal. What would be your goal?
Okay. My goal is to enjoy myself. Yes, to enjoy every day.
Sure. Okay. What's the problem with that? So you could try to enjoy yourself, but the problem is the joy, I would say joy comes from progress of some sort, making an effort or responsibility and all that kind of stuff. So what is the kind of higher goal? So this is known by psychologists, by the way, people like Viktor Frankl, who say you need like a higher goal, a purpose, and
Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy, self-actualization, right? You got to feed yourself.
Sure.
You got to have food, shelter. Everybody knows Maslow's hierarchy.
Sure, great.
I consider myself self-actualized.
Cool.
So
can you describe that? What is the higher goal? Oh, you've already reached the higher goal.
Yeah, I'm content in my life.
Cool, good for you. So you don't feel the need to get married at all?
No.
Okay, cool. I mean, people can. Okay, this is the way I see it. That why is there such a massive amount of people who've suddenly decided that their most basic need of having sex and having connection, which is all psychologists tell us we need connection, right? And there is also a statistic that your wife is one of the most important, your spouse, let's say, is one of the most important connections you will have, to the extent that when your wife dies when you're old, men die shortly afterwards, right? It's like that is important. How is it that all these people, all these men in the West are suddenly claiming they don't need sex and they're all totally fine with not being in a relationship, despite, on top of that, loneliness being one of the biggest killers in the West, especially in London? It doesn't add up. So I don't believe you, basically. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just don't believe you.
No, that's all right.
It makes sense.
You're allowed not to believe me. That's fine.
Yeah.
as we say in America, offense cannot be given; it can only be taken. I take no offense. So
Okay.
I appreciate your truthfulness.
Yeah, sure. And I don't feel offended if somebody says to me something like, "Oh, I don't know," whatever people want to say.
Right.
No difference.
And as you can tell, I don't care about my appearance much either. So
cool, good for you. You've got one degree of freedom that many other people don't. So good for you.
Sure. Did you ever see the story of the Emiratis who were kicked out of Saudi Arabia for being too good looking?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
3 guys. I think it was about 10 years ago. I posted a link in the back chat there if you want to check it out. It's pretty funny.
I don't know if that's true, but yeah.
They got like video of them being arrested. They
it
threw them out.
Silly. People really have better things to do in the Middle East and that kind of stuff. I just don't believe that kind of stuff. But anyway.
Right. Well, how's Jordan doing? How's King Abdullah II?
I like his dictatorship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I think people complain too much in the West. Like, oh, this person did that and this person that. Like, actually, it's all your fault. You're part of the community. You voted these people in, blah, blah, blah. Stop complaining, fix it. So I like the fact that you can't say anything against the king. No, that's good. Okay. One less bit of complaining.
I remember when the Arab Spring started, I was in a Metro PCS getting a new phone, and the girl on the phone, she was on the landline talking, and it wasn't Spanish. In Florida, you hear a lot of Spanish, and she was a brown girl, and I'm like, was that French you were speaking? She's like, oh yeah. I'm like, are you Moroccan? She's like, how do you know that? And I'm like, well, former colony. I said, what do you think of this Arab Spring? And she's like, oh no, we love our king. So I looked him up, King Mohammed VI or something. I guess his family controls about 60% of the economy.
Oh yeah. Most of these.
She loved him. She's like, no, we want our king. We'll keep our king.
Yeah, and I quite like it. I mean, I much like him compared to every prime minister we've had in the UK. Like, everybody hates all the prime ministers that we've had in the UK. Like, that's it. I don't know any prime minister. Stephen, do you like any particular prime minister of late?
No, not at all.
Exactly. Nobody likes.
I was going to. I don't know. Look, I don't know where we're going politically. Khaled, how are you
No,
going to
just
afford
John
how are you
Major?
going to afford a second wife? This is what I want to know.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I'll
What
answer
one
that
is
question, then I'll get
expensive
Robert
enough?
on really quickly. It doesn't have to be expensive. Life is cheap.
Oh, come on. It does. It gets expensive. Women are expensive,
Okay,
aren't
I'll
they?
tell you,
Even
like,
Muslim
there is
women.
one thing. Okay, generally, okay, this is the problem. This is the essential problem. People, if you're unhappy, what you do is you need to depend on more and more physical things. But if you're really happy, you don't need much. Just eat. You don't overeat, because overeating is compensating because you're miserable, right? So you need less and less things the more and more happy you are. Like, I'll give you a typical example. What Jordanians do in the evening, they go out and they eat nuts and have tea. That's their day out. And then they sit in a circle and talk. And they spend ages talking to each other. They love each other's company. They don't need an iPhone to be happy. In fact, iPhones make you miserable, because what you do is you get connected to fake friends through social media. Do you know what I mean? Instead of real people in real life, which is a lot more fulfilling. So life doesn't have to be complicated. Food, like, food is actually pretty cheap here. So I suppose if you make more and more of an effort, life becomes more cheap. So maybe if you can get a laptop job, work anywhere, go to a really cheap country, that could help. So that's one idea.
And what about the women over there? Do they work?
They do.
Okay.
There's different groups of women. They prefer not to work, I guess. There are issues here. They're kind of copying materialistic desires, where they're asking for more and more things to get married. Like, we have to have a house, you have to have whatever, and that's causing people to start having girlfriend boyfriend relationships, which has an effect in inflating. Like, if you're let's just say you're a girlfriend, and if you couldn't be a girlfriend, then you'd be more desperate to get married, and then you'd have less high expectation. You'd be like, yeah, I'll take whatever, I'll marry whatever. So there are these different classes of people, but there are lots of poor people who are taxi drivers who like have 7 kids and they don't earn much money, because they haven't got to that. Like, money kind of corrupts people. Like, there are people who are more and more well off, and then they're becoming more and more stupid. So yeah, and the poor people are doing much better, I would say, in many ways, because they're just having loads of kids, and it doesn't cost much money, because you can eat for £1. Really, it's incredibly cheap to live here if you eat basic food. But it can also be really, really expensive. Like, you can go to really expensive restaurants if you want to really waste your money. Let me just get Robert on. Robert.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert.
Hello.
Good to have you on again. I was
Thank you.
talking to you in the other Luke Ford show a minute ago, wasn't I? Cool. So what would you like to say?
Oh no, I thought you were going to ask me something.
Okay, yeah. I would say, and this is me being difficult, but because I care about you, right? I don't think you have your panic attacks and whatever. I would love to work with you and overcome all the panic attacks and freaking sort out your life, because you can, because you're clearly an intelligent person.
Thank you. No, I mean,
right?
I've tried absolutely everything over the years, and
but you haven't tried becoming Muslim, for example.
No, but
So
I've looked into
everything.
No, but I've looked into Christianity. I've tried all the therapies, and none of the
but they're all
therapies.
crap. I wouldn't try out the therapies. Their therapies are by therapists who have mental health problems themselves.
That is true, but sometimes medication is forced on you. You're forced to take medication. That doesn't really help either. Nothing really helps.
That's the worst. They're the worst.
They are. They make
yeah.
you fat, and they have all kinds of awful side effects.
Cool. Okay, so I would say number one, and it sounds all theoretical, but I don't know how to get around it, and it seems to be the only thing that connects people who are doing well in marriage and all the other things. Everything starts working out as soon as you have a very strong belief in God. It sounds mental, but there's this connection for some reason. I mean, there's a logical reason, but could I convince you of the existence of God and that will solve everything?
No, I do believe in God, but I do believe there's some higher power for sure.
Cool. Okay. So if you believe in God, the next step is having a fear of God. What I mean by that is like everybody knows their conscience is always telling them what is the next step. Like we have that programmed in us, right? But we don't listen to it because we fear other people more than God. Like I really don't give a crap about anybody, like what they say. Like the only reason I do this is because of fear of God. It's like God knows I know X. I have to share it. If I don't share it, I'm going to meet God and he's going to say, why didn't you do it? That's it. I really don't care otherwise, right? Okay. So if you have enough fear of God, it's in the Bible, by the way, as well as the Quran. In the Bible, it says fear of God is the root of all wisdom. And it's absolutely true. The reason is because us human beings are incredibly stupid and short-sighted. Like we just care about what Stephen says or what Jay says. Right? Like it really doesn't matter what they say, right? What are we going to do? Like, okay, let me ask you a question. And it might, I can't think of a better question, but it's kind of a good question, right? To put you on the spot. Not really put you on the spot. Why don't you become a Muslim? Let's just say it solves you. I don't really care about you becoming a Muslim.
Because any religion, why don't I become Jehovah's Witness, Baptist, Quaker? You could say that about any other Christian.
Let's put it that way. Yeah. Because then it'll feel less like I'm going to gain something from it, even though I won't gain anything from you becoming a Muslim, right? Let's say, why don't you become, I don't know, what was it, Jehovah's Witness? Do they get more people married and stable relationships?
I have attended some of their meetings, and they seem to be quite, I don't know, because any religion, you could meet a Catholic theologian, and he could convince you to become a Catholic. You could meet a Calvinist, and they could convince you. Any religion.
So are you saying you could be convinced of anything?
Well, theoretically you could, because say you met a top Catholic theologian or top Baptist. I know a Baptist, he distributes leaflets in the town of Canterbury, and I've talked to him a lot. And what he says makes sense as well. And he could convince me, yes.
Great. Okay. Now, here's why practically. So I think it's incredibly important to have a connection with a woman, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Married, right?
Yeah.
So the group that is most successful in the UK for that are Muslims. There are also ultra-Orthodox Jews, but there's such a minority that they're not really statistically useful thing to follow. Do you know what I mean? Like they're a very small group, and they don't really want you either. Like Muslims will happily have you. And not only that, okay, and I'm just saying, I really don't need anything from you, but this will be good for you, I think, right?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
If you become a Muslim, what will happen is you'll turn up at a mosque and everybody would be giving you hugs, and they will know, like, they'll say, who's this guy, this white guy who's turned up to the mosque? We're going to take care of you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You'll be surrounded by instant community. Fantastic. Right? You're not going to get that in a church. I promise you, I tell Christians to be better Christians, right? But the problem is Christianity is dying so fast that there's nowhere to go. Right. By the way, thanks Jay and Stephen for taking part. Really appreciate that. Let's have a one-to-one with you, Robert. And Claire, if you want to jump in as well. Sorry, you haven't been talking for a while. But yeah, that's my really simple advice. Like, I can tell you logically, the Quran, have you ever heard of the Quran?
No, I've read it once, but only once.
Great, whatever. Right. In there are all sorts of evidences that it comes from God. Like it describes the Big Bang, whatever. And you could debate with me. You can tell me, oh, I don't believe it, and it's your interpretation, blah, blah, blah. And I'll show you how it's not an interpretation. There's only one way of looking at certain things, right? Okay. So I can show you it's from God. So it makes sense. It's not hocus pocus. And also it's really practical. Like I would love you just to become a Christian if it would benefit you, if people actually went to church, right? But there's only people almost dead going to church, right? I think Jay mentioned that, or somebody else mentioned that, right? This is a common problem. If you want to have a living community with not just old people, because despite if you're a bit older, you'd like to have younger people, you like women there, you like all people of all ages, you want a living community, go to a mosque, right? And they'll probably hit you up with a woman, yeah, because people do get married at an old age, people whose husbands have died and whatever, and they need to remarry.
Sure.
Right? So it's like a million solutions, not just getting married, but a community as well. Like, so now the question is, putting you on the spot, being really honest with me so far, why would you not become a Muslim?
Well, for a start, it's a totally different culture, and it's got a lot of negative connotations in the West. Everything in Islam is the way you dress. If you have a beard, everything is. It's a legalistic religion, like Judaism. It's a total way of life, and that is very different.
You could wear English clothes. So I'm gonna let's be really practical about it. You don't have to wear a beard. There's no the Quran says there's no compulsion in religion, right? So and you can. I look at this, a Hawaiian T-shirt. What's the problem? I don't know.
That's true. But what do you make of some countries like Egypt, where women are wearing the niqab, and niqab is not part of Egyptian culture, but some women are being Islamized, and they're being told you must wear the niqab.
So I would say don't get distracted by the garbage that you're being sold, right? I would recommend going to those countries, and you'll find out those women like to. And we're in the West, we're told an idea about women that's completely not true. And the idea is that women are not shy. Look at Claire. Can you see her face?
No, I can't see her face, but I know her face, yes.
Yeah, but I know. My point is, it's no accident that she's not showing her face, right? Okay, it's because women are shy, relatively. So if a woman chooses to cover up more or less, some women choose to go up to that. Very few in Jordan cover up only their eyes, right? But most women are like that. And I tell you what, the women here are way more confident than men in London. I'll give you an example. Okay, I'm sitting on a bus, right? And some girl comes up to me and she goes, me and my friend want to sit here. Would you mind going on the back seat? And I'll be like, yeah, go for it. That's how it is. I remember like sitting on a bus stop, right? And I was being all like polite by not sitting on the bus stop. And she'd like, the woman goes like, you could just sit down here. No problem. Just be in here at nighttime, right? It's like, chill out, man.
Sure. But you see, I used to live in
it gives you a lot of confidence.
I agree. But you see, some people say there's this deception thing in Islam that people don't. There's supposed to be this special term, which is deception, that Islam is trying to invade the West, and they're projecting an image of being liberal. And
okay, so who cares what they're projecting? If it's true, it's true. If it's not true, it's not true. And I'll tell you, tell me, it's not a conspiracy theory. Like, white people are not having kids enough, nowhere near enough kids, and Muslims are. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just like statistical. It's like, let's stop crying about it, right? And in fact, go on.
I used to live in Algeria, okay? And in Algeria, Christianity is being persecuted. They are closing down churches, beating people up. And people like you say there's no compulsion in Islam. So how do you explain in a place like Algeria, they are actually persecuting the Christians?
That's kind of surprising, because I've seen that we have loads of Christians here, for example.
Yeah, but Jordan is considered one of the very nicest Arab states. If you go to a lot of Islamic states, Christians do get persecuted. Like in Egypt, there have been killings of Christians, bombs in cathedrals.
So these stories, because it does surprise me, because Muslims are pretty chilled out mostly with Christians, right? Okay. Like, for example, Prophet Muhammad laid out a charter, says that you can never touch Christians. You should always be peaceful with Christians. Like, maybe I should read it out. I don't know. But let me ask you a question, because I really doubt this is happening in Algeria, right? Okay. Did you see that persecution happening?
Well, when I was in Algeria, Christianity was much smaller. It grew as a result of a civil war in the 90s when hundreds of thousands of people were killed, and some people converted to Christianity as a result of that. And the reason why it's very strong is a place called Kabylie. And the Kabyles are not Arabs, they are Berbers. Most Algerians are actually Berbers, you see. And when Algeria became independent, they stressed the Arab dimension of Algeria. They totally suppressed the Berber culture. They defined themselves as Arabs and Islamic, and there was no place for anything else.
I know there's some really messed up stuff happening between Algeria and Morocco.
Yeah, there is.
It's artificial as well, as far as I understand it, because my sister-in-law is from Morocco, and she says all this stuff is just artificial, trying to get people to fight each other and stuff like that. So there's a lot of drama that doesn't really exist, and I question because I see Christians being treated really well in Muslim countries, always. Like there's so many Christians in Muslim countries.
It depends where you're talking about. I mean, like Jordan, I agree, is nice, but in Pakistan recently, dozens of churches were set on fire.
Yeah, there might be all sorts of things happening here and there. But anyway, I question it. I don't think it's anywhere near the level. Like if you see all these YouTubers who are Christians or different backgrounds who come, like have you ever seen YouTubers going to Pakistan? They're treated really well. So I question this kind of the media trying to cause trouble. So my point is, try not to let all these stories, these secondhand stories, from causing you trouble. I'm really interested in the fact that you used to live in Algeria. How long did you live in Algeria? Why did you leave?
Well, my parents were working there, and I lived there from about 72 to 83. Now in Algeria,
how old were you when you left?
About 14.
Okay, so you were a kid. You were just tagging along. You didn't. Yeah. Okay, cool. I just probably recommend pay one of those countries a visit again. It will change your way of thinking. You will love it. I think you'll be welcomed. You'll be taken care of, especially as an older person. I think you'll reset your mindset. Like I imagine you stop feeling panic attacks as much as being there, because in England you can't even make eye contact. You're not allowed to smile at people.
No. I agree with you. I agree with that. I did notice that when you get back to England, they say, "Don't stare at me. What you're staring at."
Yeah,
that is very true. That is very true.
Exactly. So I just recommend just come. You know what? I tell you what. There's no joke, right? If you come to Jordan, you can stay with us in my village home. We got loads of space, and it's not just a claim. We've done that. We've done. People just come last minute, come to our house, and we take care of them.
I believe you, because everyone said Jordan has got a very good reputation, because whenever you meet someone who's been to Jordan, they will say the people are very friendly. In a place like Morocco, there can be hostility. I mean, there was a case a while ago where 2 Scandinavian travelers had their heads cut off.
I just stopped listening to those stories. I mean, it happens. Live a little bit. Live dangerously for a little bit. You'll be fine. You probably won't have your head chopped off, and if anything, you'll have an adventure.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. Jordan, everyone knows, is a nice country, and you have a big Christian minority. They are part of a society.
Yeah, loads. I mean, I'll tell you, my kids go to a school run by Christians, right? I'm best friends with the person in charge called Tariq, which is the same name. So the Muslims and the Christians share names, right? Tariq just means star. And I remember when I was teaching there for a while, a couple of years ago, and they'd be so free in the way they talk to each other. I'll give you an example. We're playing table tennis, the teachers, right? And they go, let's do Christians versus Muslims. Like in England, everybody's really sensitive, but over there, nobody cares. Right?
Sure.
What did this game consist of?
A priest who teaches the Christian classes, plus the physics teacher who happened to also be Christian, and it was me and some other random teacher. I can't remember who it was. But it was just they just talk like that. My wife's best friend is a Christian. My best Eid ever. Do you know what Eid is? Like the kind of Christmas for Muslims, right? My best Eid ever was in a Christian household hosted by Christians. So it's like people, Christians and Muslims and Jews have been living in the Middle East for centuries together. So people just like to cause trouble. It's not like that. Maybe the problem with Jews at the moment, I don't know. I'm just going to add Black King. I've never had Black King in before. But thank you, Robert. I think I'd love you to keep just joining. We can keep having conversations. My target for you is like, you come here, you get over the panic stuff, whatever, and we freaking solve everything. Anyway,
bros all the way. Black men will rule the earth, and there ain't nothing you motherfucking racist assholes can.
Okay, I had to remove that guy because it's not a real person, I think. What was that, Claire? Any idea?
Oh, well, I guess it was some recording of you know, somebody swearing and.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, cool. Anyway, so Claire, what have you got to say? Sorry, I've been doing all the talking. We've gone way over our usual time, but anyway, do you want to add something to what I've been saying about how, I don't know, we could fix everything for Robert straight away or quite quickly?
Well, it would be very interesting for Robert to come and visit you, and you know, be shown around in Jordan, and then he can tell us all about it.
Yeah,
I think that would be great content.
Yeah, the last person who came, they
ran away very quickly, didn't she? That was what you were talking about.
What?
Well, you said
yes. So there's a girl who came,
the one that got away,
to marry me, and she ran away really quickly, and she didn't get to experience Jordan at all because she came at night time, like 12 o'clock. So it was all dark; she couldn't see anything. Yeah. So it's a shame for her. I hope she comes back. So you know what? When I talk about people, first of all, I don't have any hate toward people, and I also always have hope for them. So it's like, yeah, my idea is like, maybe I'm gonna send this video to her uncle, who will send it to her, because I don't think she's communicating with me, right? But her uncle is still good friends with me, right? And yeah, so maybe she'll learn something from it. I don't know, who knows? But whatever. So there's no kind of hate and there's always hope. Let's just summarize it that. Yeah. So, but anyway, forget that. I mean, the target, she was supposed to be like a case study for this video. Okay, let me ask you, Robert, because I really appreciate you being here. But Claire, you can jump in as well. I just try to make it a quick question. People get knocked by having relationships not working out, and they go, "Oh, we'll never try again." Have you had a couple of relationships that have knocked you?
Yeah, not totally destroyed me, but it's always dramatic, obviously.
Yeah. Why does it not hurt me so much is because it was like, how do I put this? It was like not about me. It's like when I'm in a relationship with my wife number one, I'm still don't have wife number two yet. The point is that it's always a selfless attitude more and more. Like as soon as you become a little bit selfish, it doesn't work because nobody can mind read you, fulfill all your needs. But as soon as you become selfless, then anything you get from your wife is a bonus in some ways, right? You value everything. But as soon as you become selfish, you don't value anything. It's like, why didn't you do this and do that? Do you know what I mean? Like this, you can always have more things that you wish she did. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's kind of, I don't know where I was going from. Where did I start with, Claire? Maybe you've got to help me with this. I don't know why.
Well, were you saying we should be grateful for what we have, so we don't keep asking for more and more and more? Was that what you were saying, Colin?
But I was going somewhere with it, and I can't remember where I was going. I don't normally lose track, but you know what? We've got loads of great. So this is so I was talking about why is it that I didn't feel knocked, and Jay, I put his finger on it as well earlier on. So first of all, it was a sort of a selfless thing. I thought I could add value to her life, and that's what you should do. And actually, this is the reason why people don't approach other people. So Stephen was saying you're I don't know what the word was, okay, but he was like a ladies' man, right? Actually, I'm not a ladies' man. If you have a purpose and direction, you feel more confident and you can approach people. And if they say no, so what was the word?
Lothario.
Lothario. I have to learn that word, right? So people think, okay, you're approaching this person, that person, you're attracting all these different people. Like, first of all, I don't value the attraction of people. It sounds really weird. I probably should try to explain that at some point, but I probably would explain it. The way I explain it is that if I need somebody's attraction towards me, I automatically become a slave to them. But also it's ridiculous for me because I have accepted that all women are just, first of all, they're human beings. They're incredibly weak. They have headaches, periods, millions of problems, and are annoying, right? So and I'm not saying this in a hurtful way or an angry way. I definitely still want relationships with women, but I don't put them on a pedestal. Okay, the only thing or creation I put on a pedestal, and this brings it back to God, is God, right? So when you feel a romantic attraction to somebody, you actually put them like at a sort of a God level. Would you agree? Do you know what I mean? Like when you fall in love with somebody, Robert, would you agree that you kind of treat them like, oh, they're perfect, my life is complete? That's only God. Right? And
I know. And you get men who commit suicides when their women leave them.
Right. Okay. So we've put people on a pedestal, which is completely unnatural and completely stupid. And it's a really modern idea because before Romanticism, nobody was that stupid to think that a woman was anything more than a woman, and a man was anything more than a man. Right. Okay. And I'm going to bring this idea in a little bit more. Like, where does this attraction to, or this extreme veneration of women come from? It comes from our search for God. It sounds really weird, but why would anybody put a woman at a godlike level? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. It's the same reason why we have, did you know that people find more peace, or no, being in nature is more powerful than any anti-pharmaceutical antidepressant? Do you know that? Have you ever heard that one before? Right?
Can you repeat that, please?
Being in nature is more powerful as an antidepressant than any pharmaceutical antidepressant.
I'm sure you're right.
Right, and you can search this up. So the reason I point that out is we have an attraction towards God that we don't fully understand, right? And when you realize that we're really attracted to God, then we don't put other people in its place. So when we get a little bit attracted to God, I mean, a human being, we go, oh, what we really like is what's behind that, right? The thing that created whatever. And then when you start putting things in their proper place, like God is what we're really attracted to, and you actually feel that attraction. Like, the more peaceful you make yourself, the more attracted you. I don't know if this sounds crazy, but I'm getting more and more peaceful as I become more and more detached from material needs, even though I'm trying to, I should probably add, if I don't get a second wife, I'm not too bothered. It's like a fun, cool thing to do. It's not going to change. Interesting adventure. Why am I going to Syria? Why am I going to Jordan? Why am I doing all these cool things? So people think religious people might be really boring, but when you're religious, you're less controlled and you can just do anything, right? So, and then you're not
less fearful. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because you only have one boss, one God, right? The Quran, and you've mentioned the same thing in the Bible somewhere. Like, people, when you if you worship anything other than God, what will happen is you will have more than one master. So your master could be views. Your master could be your mom, your dad. Whoever says, "Oh, you should be a doctor," in Asian culture and stuff like that, right? Okay, these are all masters. Yeah, but if you only have one master that is God, and that's the only real master you can have because no other person really controls your life, then you become free and then you can do loads of cool stuff. And then the perks are that you actually get more stuff. Like, oh yeah, might get a second wife, third wife, whatever, all this kind of stuff. I don't forget the wife stuff. That's just like one side of thing, but it's a very important thing. Like at least get the one wife, right? So I'm saying if you believe in God, and it's the most reasonable thing to believe in God. And I think you already said you have an awareness of God, right?
Yes.
Robert, you were saying that
Yeah.
the Archbishop of Canterbury said to you something that convinced you or something. Could you elaborate on that, Robert?
No, sorry, I didn't say, no, it wasn't the Archbishop of Canterbury. I don't think I said that, no, sorry.
Oh, right.
There was some priest that convinced you of something. You said.
No, I had experiences. I had a mental breakdown, and it was like being attacked by the devil. It was such a powerful force. It was demonic, and if you believe there's devil, there's got to be God.
Yeah, somebody asked a random question, I suppose. You could do anything you want, Baron Arikovov, whatever, but I don't think it'll work.
Sorry, I just have to go for a few minutes. I'll be back later. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So Claire, we'll wait for him a little bit, but let's cover some of the things that we haven't talked about. So one thing that comes to mind is the over-dependence on the state. And I think that I'm trying to stick in some ways to this case study of the person who tried to marry me, right? So I think she gets a lot of, she's never had a job. I don't recommend she does have a job, but she never really had to struggle in the real world and understands the value of money and stuff like that. And also on top of that, I think I get the sense that she gets more money for having mental health problems, right? And I know somebody else who does that by purpose. There's a way you can get more money out of the system, right? So that makes you even more dependent and more weak. So you can't step out of that, because when you become dependent on free money, you don't think you're capable of doing anything yourself. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's a problem. And in Islam, I put in the description of this video, at least on YouTube, that you're given 4 very basic things, which is food, water, shelter. Food, water, shelter. There's something else. I can't remember. Really basic things. So you can't really become dependent on those things. They're not something. They're not luxurious things. They're just your minimum things for existence. Do you know what I mean? So your 4th question is always, what can the government do? I would say the government should not give too much, but it should give enough so you're not controlled by or put into capitalistic slavery. You know, like these jobs in Amazon where you don't even have a chance to go to the toilet. You have to pee in a bottle or something like that. Do you know what I mean? That's capitalistic slavery. That you need to be protected from being forced into having those kind of low-paid jobs, right? But not so much protection so that you become dependent on it. And then when you become dependent on it, you become completely useless. And I think, and you become delusional as well. Like you start going, oh, I'm amazing, whatever. Like you don't have to achieve anything to prove that you're amazing. Like this person kept on saying, I published these books. Like she just self-published books, and nobody probably buys those books. Do you know what I mean? Except for, 1 or 2 of her friends, maybe. Do you know what I mean? So like you can become delusional, you become dependent, and your life doesn't progress. It's really harmful. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree?
Well, it's true, but I suppose I'm a little curious about her parents' attitude, because maybe, as parents, they might want to see their daughter married.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So I think maybe you can put this. I'll kind of say it in a slightly unfiltered way. They're kind of all over the place. So the dad is having sex with different women, having babies with different women. So he's all over the place. The mom is kind of like in a mental, how would you describe it? She's attached very much or dependent on this particular girl, the one I was supposed to marry. So they, you would think, okay, so why do people self-harm? You'd think people like themselves, right? But they still self-harm because they're making bad choices and they don't like themselves and all this kind of whatever, however you want to describe it. So in the same way, people harm their children if they are not in a stable place themselves. And I suppose one thing I'd add on top of it, like when a man is doing something he knows is wrong, like for example, having children with different women and not being responsible, he will start feeling any man approaches his daughter would have the same intentions. And that's exactly what I got. I tried to get in touch with him earlier on in the whole process. He wasn't interested. But then as soon as he made any contact, he was like saying, you have bad intentions, you're bad, you're evil, you're blah, 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 and whatever. And she's not ready to get married to anybody because she has mental illnesses, right? So that was a whole claim. And there was no kind of even I could say that he was mental. In fact, I would say most people in the West are mental in different ways, right?
Exactly.
I really, and they would definitely, a lot of people in the West would say they have mental illnesses because they're so depressed that they're taking massive amounts of drugs. So having that kind of broad claim that she's mental while she's also saying very intelligent things would mean they're not interested in her getting better. They I don't know, they're really confused. I mean, do you want to try to analyze it in your own way? You can disagree with me.
Yeah, because I guess, if we have children, we would like to think that our children are marriageable. And I thought it might be some sort of issue like, being a second wife is not as good as being a first wife. Maybe she should hold out and be the first wife of some man.
No, that's fair enough.
Maybe they find the idea of their daughter becoming a second wife bizarre.
No, actually, that's a really good point. I think she was struggling with that. And this is how I put it. She was so desperate to get away from them that I think the reality of being a second wife or all the rest of it, or being a wife at all, hit her when she got to Jordan, and she was in big trouble. Like she was getting messages, but also the reality of being married at all. And on top of that,
living in a strange country.
Being in a strange country, she was really scared. Like it was at night time and she's going to places that she'd never been to, which is quite natural, isn't it? It's like you're in a different country, everything's going to be new. Yeah. And I think that she did say something like, "Oh, I can't have sex with you. You're married to somebody." Like she, in her mind, it was like
she was the first time.
It's like adultery or whatever, something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, did you take her to any strange places on the night of her arrival?
To my flat?
Which she found frightening.
She had to get out of the taxi at one point really close and vomit or something. I'm not sure if she was vomiting or it was basically panic attacking. It was just getting worse and worse. Mm-hmm. But I think she does have panic attacks, but it's also something that she puts on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it seemed a bit fake as well. It was kind of like coming to a reality, something like that. So like awareness that, oh, I've escaped the hell that was my household. But it was like, I think escaping is not enough. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what her problem was. She was escaping and she was idealizing me and life in Jordan, whatever. And not that it wasn't. You just have to be patient. You shouldn't even wait for it to be daytime. Do you know what I mean? So this kind of brings me back to my point, trying to make it kind of like not just about her, but people in the West, including Robert. Where are you, Robert? Robert, you're back here or not?
He's just dark. So did you communicate with her after that? Like, what was all that about, kind of thing?
It was like she ran away in the morning. I messaged her, and I did say her, "You're behaving like a crazy person." That's it, really. I don't try to enable people and tell, "Oh, it's all fine." No, it's not fine. You're like behaving completely mentally. Like, yeah, I'll take care of you wherever you need, but like, just calm down. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense what you're saying. You're not going to marry Andrew Tate. Why did you come here? Does it make any sense what you're saying? You know, I try not to.
What did she say about marrying Andrew Tate? I'm a little curious about that.
There wasn't much to say. It's like, oh, I've come to marry Andrew Tate. And then I said, are you serious? And she said, no, I know that's stupid.
Right.
No, she very quickly said that's a stupid thing. And then she kind of every now and then repeated it or something. So like, and I don't try to convince people in a way like, okay, if you're going to be completely mental, it's better that you're not married to me. Like, it brings it back to the idea of like, I'm not dependent or need a person. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's a really unhealthy place to be. And that's what I'm trying to encourage people here. Like, kind of stay aloof at some level. Like, you don't absolutely like you at least need one wife though. But don't be disappointed. A bit like what Jay was saying. Like, if that person behaves in a weird way, it's better that you get detached from that person sooner than later.
It was a blessing in disguise.
Oh, definitely.
The silver lining. Yeah, even though it was
I don't
disappointing
even.
and annoying.
Yeah. So I just find it. I was the only thing I was disappointed in is God kind of thing. Sounds really weird because like normally I get loads of like help from God and all sorts of weird things keep happening.
Well, I sent you the verse and you ignored it.
Because I thought she wasn't idolizing because let me put this in context. She was putting away she was listening to me and putting away all the things that were, I don't know what happened to Jay. He joined and disappeared for a second. But anyway, so the reason why I ignored it is because I didn't think you were aware of all the things that were happening, all the progress she was making. But maybe, maybe I was ignoring, and I probably was. Okay, so I'll put it this way. Right in the beginning, I was telling her, you're probably not the right person because I said, you should wear a headscarf. You should do this, whatever. And then I said, you know what? There are Muslims that I've seen on YouTube who are not wearing headscarves and they're really good converse. And eventually they wear headscarves. And now I'm thinking when I find the next person, be like, I'm going to be a lot more hardcore. And I was right the first time, like right in the beginning. And I should not be too soft on the rules because the rules make sense and they work and they demonstrate a sort of commitment. So if you wear a headscarf, it demonstrates a commitment to religion. And yeah, we've been talking a lot. We should wind this up. But I want to hear from Rob and maybe Jay if he wants to say the last few things. Robert, are you there or what? I'll remove him and add him. Anyway, let's wind this up. We've done plenty of talking, loads of great guests.
Yes, before I forget, there's this thing. I mentioned Andy Nowicki to you and
what did
brought to your attention one of his videos in which he said that all the women he met seemed to be crazy ladies who turn nasty.
Because a lot of them are, right? So in the West, I'd say most women are crazy ladies. I'm going to be difficult on you. I think you're a bit of a crazy lady, right? Well, why do I say that? Because if I say you're telling the whole world to get married and you're not going to get married yourself. There's also some elements of craziness.
Saying, I don't think you have to be marriageable in order to say that marriage is the best way of rearing the next generation. So if you're going to make everybody who says that marry, you might frighten them away, and that might be counterproductive.
Jay, don't you think Claire's a bit of a hypocrite, a bit crazy? She's not even trying to get married.
He's nodding away.
No, that's exactly. Let's have a go. get Claire right now. This is I'll be entertaining for a little bit.
Well, what can I say to that?
You don't know where to begin.
Jay
did
doesn't
you try?
want to get married, and he actually made he made me promise him never to ask him to marry him. He actually said that. So,
Really, Jay? You said that?
Yes. So I guess the disease hits all of us.
I would have
I'm
thought,
actually
Jay, that you
admitting
tried
that people
to
don't want
propose
to
to
marry.
Claire at least.
No. Well, we went and did various activities together, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I don't remember asking Claire.
Well, I maybe I can probably find it from an old WhatsApp message, but yes, you do say a lot of contradictory things.
No, we're talking about you, Claire. We're on you right now.
Yeah. So I'm not being contradictory. I'm saying even a child can agree that marriage is the best way to bring up the next generation.
Sure. Okay, because they're not eligible to be married, but they can still believe in it.
Yes, that's all I'm saying. I set a very low standard, because if you're going to say, oh, you said marriage, oh, that means you have to be marriageable and you have to marry, I think you'll frighten a lot of people away.
Okay, maybe. Okay. Jay, what were you going to say?
I don't think Claire fully understands that if she gave a personal demonstration of her principles and her beliefs, then that would be a better example than all of her words.
I promote secular Quranism every day, like I believed in it. So you can't fault me on that.
No,
Claire, I agree with Jay. Like, for example, do you believe in God? You can't really promote. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, so I think you should stick to whatever makes sense, I suppose. So if you believe in God, then you should say you believe in God, not say you have to be secular to promote secular Quranism, that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Well, you can believe in God and still promote secular Quranism if you think that marriage is the best way of rearing the next generation. I try to cast my net as wide as possible and to be as inclusive as possible.
Claire,
what's your go on, Jay? What were you going to say?
Actual words are, I take the position as an agnostic. So
yes, because I have to take into account all these people who don't believe in God, and say you need
so you
to have
don't
a moral
go
system.
with the truth. You go with whatever's popular or what
No,
might.
Secular Quranism is not popular, but I'm saying
no
one can
Claire,
deny that marriage is the best way to bring
Jay.
up the next generation.
We're all going to have a go at you, Claire. Go for it, Jay.
I mean, we're not having a go at Claire. We're having a go at ideology and hypocrisy. When you say I take the position as agnostic, it's quite similar to a man saying, "Well, I identify as a woman."
Yeah.
No, I've explained why I have to be the piggy in the middle to control both.
You don't
both positions on either side.
People will be convinced of what you say if you stick to what you truly believe. So if you believe in God, you should say, I believe in God. Not I have to be agnostic so that people might follow secular Quranism, because that would make you a hypocrite.
Well, I don't see why. I mean, a hypocrite is somebody who pretends to believe in order that people will think, oh, Claire's a believer. She must, whatever.
You haven't any reason not to believe in the existence of God, is what I'm saying. We've had this discussion.
I know all the arguments.
Anyway, Jay, we're not going to get anywhere with this. She has her good things and her bad things, as we do. Or what do you think, Jay?
Yeah, no, there are good things about Claire. It would be great if she could display them occasionally. No. There's that. I'm always honest and fair. Her consistency, her effort, I think she is genuine with what she believes and what she tries to do. I often try and encourage her to improve areas of her character to make her less detestable, which is what people eventually do, which is why she falls out with everybody. She's more comfortable on her own than actually working with someone in political activism, and I think she pushes people away. So it's like a subconscious desire to be on her own, where I think she's at her best when she is on her own. She's occasionally teamed up with people, and it doesn't seem to work as well. I could be wrong with that. I think there's some substance to her ideas. I think there's definitely some substance as to the cause of the problem. I'm not convinced that her solution is the way out of things. But I do commend her for trying, and I
Thank
do.
you.
Yeah, but I've always said that's not. I think the one thing I and many others just don't agree or like is being called names like Islamophobic when
Yes, I am.
when we don't agree with her. So in much the same way, if a Hindu friend said to me, "Let's make the UK Hindu," I'd say no thanks, which doesn't mean to say that I'm frightened or I hate Hindu people.
Well, yes, you are. You're saying
No.
you don't want the idea, but I'm saying you have to have a religion, or things will just get worse, and you don't seem to understand that. You think, oh, we'll just soldier on and complain about the government, and and you just never get it that there's something wrong with Christianity, which is kaput.
I don't hate Muslims, and I don't fear for them.
But you can't make the leap into thinking there is a problem and it has to be solved. You're just saying we can just sort of
like
muddle through. You keep doing that.
It's a circular logic.
No, it's not circular. You're just denying that you need to solve the problem.
No. If you listen,
you have no solution.
Okay, let's give Jay a chance. We'll take turns. Go on.
The premise that you're using is that I am Islamophobic and fearful, and I'm frightened and don't like Muslims and Islam, and that is false. So the arguments that as soon as you hear me say, "No, thank you, I don't want not to be a secular Quranist," you jumped, "Oh, you're this, you're that," which is incorrect.
But you don't have a solution.
So what's your solution? Let's answer that. Go for it, Jay. What's your solution to the breakdown of society?
I don't have a solution.
Cool. What do you think about the Islamic solution?
What, as in following the Quran?
So like out of choice, like following some rules, like believing in God. Let's just follow the Quran is too big of a thing. Like there's a million rules in there, right? So let's just focus on a few rules. So the Quran says that there are gender roles. Men lead, okay, but they're supposed to be kind leaders, and women should be obedient and they should take care of the household because they're really good at that. How do you feel about that?
I think it's rubbish. I think what you were saying before about the second wife and that sort of stuff. I don't.
But let's break. That's another thing. Second wife, right? I don't mind you saying it's rubbish, but I want you to break down. In what sense do you think it's rubbish? Do you think men and women are exactly the same?
No, they're different. But when you said women have to obey, they must be obedient, that's when you're getting into oppression.
Cool. Okay. No, but what happens if you've chosen? Okay, so let's say you go to a company, right? Every company has a boss, right? Okay. Is that called oppression when you chose to work for that company and that company treats you well, gives you lots of perks, whatever, but there has to be some level of hierarchy and order? Do you disagree that, let's just forget marriage for a second. Do you agree, is that called oppression when you work for a job where they treat you well and there's just levels of hierarchy? That's all.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's, oppression. I mean, if you were to look up the definition of oppression, it's a negative.
But my wife doesn't feel oppressed. Women choose and they're very happy. And I would say they're far happier than people who are not in relationships. So that's an assumption that they're oppressed. That It's just the same thing.
Yeah, but
A relationship with an organization. That's all.
You're assuming that some of them are not oppressed, some of them are. It's different. I mean, no, I don't think it's a good thing. I mean, try someone like Claire.
So there's different models. Let's put it this way: there's different models, right? And there's some models which produce long-lasting relationships and children and stuff like that, and that would be the Muslims. They're doing it overwhelmingly, like statistically, they're leading everybody in the UK, at least, and in the West as well, right? So should there not be some sort of humility in saying, I don't mind you saying it's rubbish, but like, you lose, the West loses if by just saying it's rubbish rather than learning anything from it? Is there not anything to learn from the fact that in nature, if we're built differently, we'll have different roles? That's all. What's wrong with that?
No, I mean, I think what you've just said is rubbish.
So to say it's just rubbish kind of belittles your own point of view. You should have like a more nuanced argument, I would say.
Yeah, but who are you? Where's your authority? Where's that coming from?
Okay, so my authority is statistics. It's like working. Okay, that's one of my authorities. The other authorities, if you look in the Quran, okay, you'll see lots of things that are some scientific in nature. We can dispute them if you want. You can look at those verses and say, how did the Quran know about the Big Bang and all sorts of the nature of the universe that Einstein struggled to find out until recently and stuff like that? There's also amazing, loads of things to say that this book is from God. So that's my authority, God, right? So there's no greater authority, no more valuable authority than that. So that's one. So there's academic, maybe you could call it if you want. There's like intellectual reason to believe that there is an authority behind it. And also the practicality of these religious ideas that keep winning. Like they keep winning, even like ideas that seem crazy, like circumcision. People realize, oh, that's better for your sexual health, and people actually enforce it in African countries to reduce STDs, right? So it's like all sorts of things. And all I would say is, like, I don't need anybody to accept me, but I'm saying, or accept Islam, whatever, right? But in the West, if things are going so badly, you really need to, step back and have some humility and go, I'm not going to just say rubbish. I'm going to say, okay, that works, and I don't have a better solution. Maybe, I don't know, more humility, or just ask questions. I don't know, something like, okay, I can't get my head around it. I don't like the idea. Go on.
We're now in a position where you're telling me what to think and say.
No, I'm giving an argument. I'm just saying some level of humility makes sense.
No, you said this is what you should be doing. Now, if you
that's what I meant. I'm obviously not going to tell you what to do.
You listen back to this recording.
Okay, let's say I did say that. Let me correct myself. It happens. We're human beings, right? My point is that I think that would be a more sensible course of action or approach, which is, like you said already, you don't have a solution. Then you have solutions coming from Islam, and it seems to be working really well, other than the claim that certain people are oppressed, right?
But you, again, the things that when I said to you, what is your authority over me? You
not over you, authority. Oh, it wasn't over you.
But in general,
it was like, where did I get these ideas from?
There's nothing that you said that give me one jot of thinking that you have any authority.
It's not. I don't have authority myself.
No,
I'm just saying.
So
I thought you were talking about Islam, like the idea.
No, look, some things work, some things probably don't work. It's a fair assessment. It's the same as Christianity, but with my ideas and my thoughts, they are mine, and I'm okay with them. I'm okay with yours. You're not okay with mine. You're the one that's disturbed.
No, your ideas don't bother me. Like Christianity doesn't bother me. It's like Manchester United playing, I don't know, the worst football team that just keeps losing. Like, it doesn't bother Manchester United.
Why do you always try to, let's just say, gently convert into your way of thinking, when I never try, like, to persuade you?
I have
you
loads
not
of people
seen
trying to
that?
convert me to Christianity. It doesn't bother me. Why are you bothered about it? This is part of a, it's not just Christianity, Islam, whatever. It's just ideas. We all share ideas. Nobody should get upset. Like, it makes no difference. I'm not bothered at all. Like, everybody notices I'm not bothered at all, whatever anybody says, right? Like, I'm listening. You've got a good idea, we'll share it, right? That's all. So it's like, forget this, like, oh, why are you trying to convert me? Blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean anything. It's like we're sharing ideas. And I even tell people to be really good Christians.
I would say you're being dishonest with yourself. Stephen messaged me whilst we were streaming, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying, because he said it before on here, that it doesn't matter what you say, he'll try and convert you. And this is, you have
it's not really what you say. Tell me something.
I would say you have a deep desire to influence brackets convert the people that you're speaking to. You try to talk
100%. I'm not denying that.
Yeah,
I think it's the best. I said it in a previous live stream that it's a fantastic solution, but I recommend it above anything. Like, it's just like going to a gym. It's like, that is the best gym. Like, the results show it, right? But if you like your gym that's next door to you, aka Christianity, go there. Just do it properly. That's all.
I do.
That's what I've always said. It really doesn't bother me otherwise.
I don't have the desire or the need to try to persuade you that my way.
I know, because you haven't got anything to sell. That's what I'm saying. Tell me something. Like, if Christianity was like all working and like loads of people having kids, whatever, and it was all working, then I'll be like, yeah, oh cool.
So,
maybe I'll try that out.
Why do you feel the need to compete?
It's not competing. It's trying to save humanity. I don't need to compete.
So your job, your role is to save humanity.
Everybody's duty as a reasonable citizen and a decent human being is to help other people. That's all it is.
I'm okay with that. I do that.
And I'm doing that. I'm doing that. That's what I'm doing. And I can see depression is really going through the roof. So I'm going to try to do something about it. That's it. It's really simple. I don't know if connections died. We really should wrap up.
I'm thinking what you were saying.
Yeah, and I do think Jay understands the operation of hierarchy, because somebody with a solution is higher status than somebody who doesn't have a solution, unless the person without a solution can say, your solution is crazy because X, Y, and Z. They can't just say, I don't like your idea, and that's it. You know, there are ways of working out these disagreements.
Whilst I was setting this stream up and came on, and you were talking about families and family values and marriage, a link came on from the Luke Ford, and the title was Twitter, and the title was, Claire talked about having an affair with the older married man. So whilst Luke is talking about your chat with him, was that earlier today?
Yes.
So whilst you're talking about your affair with an older married man who had,
I didn't actually go into. We didn't say that. I mean, it was really about older men.
Right.
Because of the problem I had with respecting men who were my contemporaries.
Right. So you had an affair with a married man who had a few children.
What about it?
Well, but then you're on here talking about family values.
Yeah. I mean, and are you saying that? No.
I think that's a fair point.
Do we have to be morally perfect? Do we have to be morally perfect
okay,
before we talk about anything?
I suppose the question is, Claire, do you regret that? And do you think you would do it again?
No, I don't regret it. No. But I see the reason.
So do you think you should be whipped according to
I've actually offered as a way of generating publicity of how serious I am about the whole thing. So I did actually write to the Indonesian embassy and say, will there be journalists to report it if I go to Aceh province and submit myself to that punishment that they have in Aceh province? And the answer was sort of no. So but anyway, you can find it on my blog.
Okay.
And
you don't
I was saying
regret it
basically
even?
that I would be taking the punishment on behalf of the
You don't
British
regret.
people.
You don't. You should at least
Not
regret
only,
it, no?
well. Not only
No, I
does she
don't
not
regret
regret
it.
not only
Okay.
does she not regret it,
But I see there are reasons for these laws. Of course I do.
not only
Cool.
does she not regret it, it was me that talked her out of contacting the children to let them know.
I
what she was
have
going to
already
do.
been in contact. I mean, I actually know, I have, spoken to them. So,
So somebody says checkmate. I might agree with that to some extent. Anyway,
what's your checkmate about it? I mean,
checkmate as
are
in
we really saying that you have to be morally perfect to
no,
even
but you
talk
should at
about
least
changing
regret
the
it.
system?
Okay, would you do it again? If you don't regret it, it sounds like you just do it again.
Yes, she would. She's admitted it.
So it doesn't sound very convincing.
I just
You have
take
to
my
make a more
punishment.
convincing argument.
I just take my punishment.
So you
Right.
would go for the 100 whips, but it's not going to happen. So you have to police yourself, which you're not willing to do. And so my point is that people are just going to listen to that. You can say anything, like the Zionists say, oh, it's not genocide, but nobody cares what they're saying. They can look at they'll make their own conclusions, right? Okay. In the same way, if you're going to say, I believe in secularism, I hate the fact that you're always going on about all these people having sex outside marriage and blah 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 and all this kind of stuff. And
The
then you say,
punishment only kicks in when you have bastard children. I don't have bastard children. Okay, that would be the distinction. But if I did, even if I had 10 bastard children, variously fathered, what I say is still true.
okay,
There
but you
should
understand
be some,
people
room to discourage bastard children.
Sure, but do you understand that people are less convinced if you don't follow the laws you espouse?
Well, I'm not having an affair left, right, and centre. I'm not, pumping
Okay.
out bastards every year. So,
Okay.
what is the problem? I'm not pumping out bastards. I don't even have one.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to answer Ramiz Juman? I suppose
No, because I did not destroy anyone's marriage. So
were they quite happy to have number 3 in the couple?
I don't know, but
poor Robert. He's been trying to join for a
He
million
died a
times.
married man.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, you got your answer.
Yes.
Okay, let's wind up. That was very interesting, Jay. Interesting news. But I do try
It's
to
nothing that Claire hasn't publicised and written about, and it's still online.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard she's not denying anything, so I don't need to bother reading it. So what can we say as a wind up? Because the whole topic started off with romance kills relationships. That was my claim in the title. Jay, what are your final thoughts?
I used to want to change people. I used to want to influence and have that effect and be seen as doing it as well. And I thought I was right about everything. And as I've got older, I changed my mind on some things, life experience, and now I realise that I don't know what's best for other people.
Okay, cool. But what do you think about romance? Oh, so you're saying you don't have a claim about anything? You don't have an opinion on anything? Even the romance idea, for example?
For romance, I think it's there's a purpose for it because it's instinct. It's like hunger.
Yeah.
I think romance is what brings men and women together. I think you can't rely on it. I think it's dangerous, but I wouldn't go as far, I think, as what you were saying initially about that. It's just like not whether it's good or not. Romance does not kill relationships. The reliance upon romance more in women than men. When after 3 months the woman says, "It's not the same. You don't treat me," and that's well, yeah.
So men are not as romantic, you're saying?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was going to dig a tiny bit on a simple question, which is, what's the difference between infatuation and romance for you?
They're different things. I mean, infatuation is almost like a mental disorder.
You will know at the time, though.
Yeah, infatuation is
obsession.
Infatuation. It's like when I met Claire a few times, she was infatuated with me.
I think it's the other way around.
And when I said I didn't want her to marry me, she got me banned on Twitter.
Oh, she would do that, shouldn't she?
No,
I know she's like that.
It was about something else.
Claire, come on. You can't ban people on Twitter like that.
It was about male circumcision that the ban came up.
Okay, Claire, your turn.
Okay.
Romance, does it kill relationships?
No, but if you ask me what would make a relationship last, I would say common objectives, wanting the same thing. Usually it is about parenting the children, but something outside that would help, being able to get on with each other,
Claire,
share the same interests and that sort of thing, or just
so cool.
What was the common?
Jay really wanted to say something, then I'll wind up.
What was the common objective with the old man?
He's not letting go like he shouldn't. He's good. Well done, Jay. Go on.
I was going to say, which one?
There's a lot of distance between Claire's life and Claire's words.
That's true. I think so, but not too much. In some, I don't know. Maybe, yeah. I don't know what else.
No,
you could probably.
I don't know why you expect me to be morally perfect.
Anyway,
it's when you preach about perfect morality.
Exactly. You do preach. You keep saying
rules are made to be broken.
I keep getting messages not every day, but a lot. It's like Muslims are not doing their job in telling Christians they're the idol worshippers, and I go, yeah, we've done it. It's all over YouTube. We're telling them 3 in 1 doesn't make sense and all this kind of stuff, and you're worshipping a man, blah blah. It's been done to death. So, but you keep repeating it. So it's like,
but they don't care, though. That's the thing. These Christians don't care.
Anyway, okay. So these are my thoughts. Okay, just to wind up, and it goes something like this, right? If you look at the most traditional relationships outside Islam, even like back in the day in our grandparents' time, right, or great grandparents' time. There was definitely love in those relationships, and there was definitely a sexual energy in that relationship, but they didn't idolize people. They didn't have this so much of a romantic idea about people. It's like a woman is a woman with her frailties and her problems and her nagging and all this kind of stuff. It's just reality. But there is definitely still a sexual energy. A man is annoying and bossy and blah, 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 and all sorts of issues. And sometimes unfeeling, but you should be more and can be better and all this kind of stuff. But still there's a sexual energy, whatever. And it still works out because they understand, like, they have a responsibility. And the problem with romance is that it comes from some other place of not responsibility, but kind of like trying to get. It's like, it's just, for me, the reason why, even though romantic ideas have existed for like over 100, 200 years, it's only more recently they've taken hold because of how would I describe it? Materialistic. Yeah, something. It's basically materialistic. It's
Hollywood.
materialistic. You're basically oh, if only I had the iPhone, if only I had that car, if only I had that woman, if only I had that whatever. And that's, for me, that's where it's come to. And we've kind of lost touch with reality. And losing touch with reality is always a bad idea, I think. Can I end it with that? Is all right?
Yes,
Okay.
or we'll just sort of carry on forever. There was something on the tip of my tongue, and it's gone anyway. So
yeah, we've done 2 hours and 11 minutes. Let's go. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Much more interaction than we expected. Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye.
Great
Jay.
stream,
Bye.
Khalid.
Yeah,
Great stream.
thank you, all of you. Thank you. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.